All right, let's talk about a huge shift that's happening right now in the JavaScript world. Seriously, it's this quiet but powerful change in thinking that's going to affect how we all build apps for years. We're talking about the rise of adapters and this whole new philosophy of making your code truly future-proof. Let's dive in. So let me ask you this. Have you ever been deep into a project, maybe a few years in, and you just get that sinking feeling that you're stuck? The framework you chose feels old, the cool kids have moved on, but a full rewrite, no way. That feeling, that tech lock-in, is a massive pain point. And you know what? That shared frustration is exactly what's kicking off a revolution. And look, this isn't just some abstract idea. You can see this sentiment bubbling up everywhere. Take this comment from Reddit. For ages, Express.js was just what you used for a Node backend. It was the default. But now, as this person points out, relying on these older monolithic tools can feel like you're literally being held back while the rest of the world moves forward. And that frustration, that's the engine for what's coming next. So the answer to escaping this framework trap isn't just another shiny new framework. Nope, it's a totally new way of thinking. People are calling it the Great Unbundling. It's this move away from those big, all-in-one solutions and toward a much more flexible, build-it-yourself kind of approach. At the heart of this whole unbundling movement is one key idea: agnosticism. In the software world, this just means building your tools to be independent from the get-go. Think of it like a USB-C cable for your code, right? It doesn't care if you plug it into a Mac, a PC, or an Android phone. It just works because it's built on a standard. That's what we're talking about for our code. So what does this really look like in practice? Well, the old world was all about these giant monolithic frameworks. You picked one, and that was it. It decided everything for you: your server, your UI, your data fetching, the whole shebang. The new world? It's composable. It's about picking and choosing the absolute best library for each specific job, and then plugging them all together. You get to build your perfect stack, not just use one off the shelf. Let's start with the first piece of the puzzle: making your backend code portable so it can literally run anywhere. And that all starts with a server runtime. Hono is a fantastic example of this. As their docs say, it's built on web standards, things like the standard request and response APIs. And because those standards are supported basically everywhere, your Hono code isn't just stuck on Node.js. You can write your API one time and then deploy it to a traditional server, or push it to the edge on Cloudflare, or run it on a new runtime like Dino or Bun, all without having to change a thing. And this quote from Nitro just nails the end goal. Nitro is the server engine that powers Nuxt, and its whole reason for being is to abstract away the deployment target. You just write your server code, and Nitro does all the magic in the background to make it work on Vercel, or Netlify, or AWS, or whatever platform comes out next year. Now that is what we mean by future-proofing. And just look at the server landscape today. It's exploding with options. It's not just about Node.js anymore. You've got these exciting new contenders like Dino and Bun, plus this whole universe of edge runtimes from Cloudflare, Vercel, and others. When you build with an agnostic approach, you don't have to bet on a single winner. You're ready for all of them. Okay, so that's the server side of things. But this second pillar applies the exact same idea to the front end. How do you get that same freedom for your UI? With one tool that can work across many frameworks. I absolutely love this quote from the TanStack query docs because who hasn't felt this pain? That endless bowl of async spaghetti code. It's so real. TanStack query comes in and solves this universal headache of managing data. But here's the kicker. It does it without caring one bit if you're using React or Vue or anything else. And this is what that freedom looks like. TanStack Query isn't really a React library. It's a JavaScript library that has adapters for React, for Vue, Solid, Svelte, even Angular. You learn this incredible tool one time, and you can take that knowledge with you to any project, on any team, no matter what framework they're using. So how does this all work? Is it magic? Well, kinda, but it's actually a classic software idea called the adapter pattern. You have the core library, which has all the heavy lifting, all the complex logic, and it's completely framework agnostic. Then for each framework, there's a tiny lightweight adapter. This adapter is like a bridge. It connects that core logic to the specific features of the framework you're in. So for example, the Angular adapter can leverage signals for reactivity. The React adapter uses hooks. That's the beauty of it. You get the raw power of one portable library, but with a developer experience that feels perfectly native to whatever framework you're working in. Okay, so we've got these awesome, unbundled, agnostic pieces for our server and our UI logic. But how do we actually snap them all together to build a real app? This is where we get to the fun part, composing the new stack. Check out this real-world story from a developer's blog. It's a perfect example. They took their old, rigid stack built on Koa and Webpack and just ditched it. They composed a new one using modern, best-in-class tools, Vite for the dev server and Hono for the backend. And the result? Less friction, better code. That's the promise of composition right there. Now, once you start composing a bunch of different tools, you might think, wow, this sounds complicated to set up. And it can be. That's why a new category of tools is popping up called orchestrators. Think of tools like Vinci or Vike. They're designed to be the conductor, helping you assemble all these different parts, your UI, your server, your build tools, into one cohesive working application. And what's really fascinating is that even in this new world of orchestrators, we're already seeing different approaches. Vinci, for instance, bets on standardizing around one server runtime, Nitro, to build a rich ecosystem of shared tools. SSRX, on the other hand, says, hey, bring whatever server you want, we'll make it work. There isn't one right answer. It's all about empowering you, the developer, with meaningful choices. So after all this, it really brings us back to that big question. How do you make sure the stack you build today is still going to be the right choice in 3, 5, or 10 years? Is your stack future-proof? Well, this agnostic, composable approach gives us a pretty powerful answer. It gives you the flexibility to swap out parts as tech evolves. It dramatically lowers the risk of getting stuck with a single vendor or a dying framework. And, maybe most importantly, it frees you up to always pick the absolute best tool for every single part of your app, building a stack that's uniquely and perfectly yours. And that leads to one last big thought to leave you with. With the rise of all these powerful, unbundled tools and the adapters that seamlessly connect them, are we actually watching the end of the all-in-one framework as we've always known it? Something to think about. Thanks for watching The Explainer.